Welcome to TruthStream. We're here with Brad Olsen, adventurer and world Indiana Jones, world traveler. Thanks for coming back.
A beverage beer connoisseur.
And also Lewis Herms as a surprise guest. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. How's it going, Brad?
Hey guys, great to be here. Nice to see y'all again. And congratulations on a very successful Truth Tour 2. I was following you guys all along, and looks like we're helping to really assist people in this great awakening period and get people to understand what's going on in this country, in this world. And it's not the way we've been painted a story of reality and sold down the river to these globalists, who I consider to be the real movers and shakers. The government is a bit of puppets on their strings, but it's this moneyed elite that is showing themselves to be the real enemy here, this Davos group, and they're still pushing full steam ahead. So we have to counter with more things like the Truth Tour to help people wake up to see what's going on.
Excellent.
Agreed. Now, Lewis, I know you're here for a little bit of a short time, if you will. Maybe you can let the folks know what's in the works about the Truth Tour's next step or in the evolution.
Yeah, well, we're going to go to Magic Mountain and ride roller coasters together.
Yes,
I knew it. Okay, thanks for joining us, Brad. Back to you.
Exactly. See ya. Well, I can't let the cat completely out of the bag, although I like cats. So I guess we could say that there's what I believe has been severely lacking, and based on conversations with patriots and, really we the people, is direction. And it's tough because constantly what we hear is, what can I do? I feel lost. Everything I do is kind of hits a stopgap. So even when I communicate, it's not working and nobody's listening to me. And is there a way I could protest or boycott, or how do I do this stuff? It doesn't make sense to me, right? Somebody please help and give direction. This we've heard a lot. So I think that's legit. I think it's completely legitimate that people don't have the direction. And it's tough because we've been propagandized for so many years on how not to stand up, how not to buck the system, how not to raise our voice, how not to go right when everybody else is going left. I mean, this is what we've been trained to do over and over and over. So it's tough for people even to take that first step. And the other thing we've been conditioned to do is be afraid of failure. And that's a really scary condition. The opposite is we should want to fail. Should strive to fail, because if we strive as hard as we can to do things right and we fail, it doesn't matter. You don't fail the second time and the third time because you don't do the same thing. You change it up and you get better and better and better, and you hone your practices. So what we're going to do is we're going to be hands-on with we the people, introducing techniques and tools that you can go into almost any situation, feel confident, and walk out successful. So this is going to be a ground up venture where we're going to take our country back one community at a time. And I liken it to the Lady and the Tramp movie, where you have the two dogs eating spaghetti, one from one end and one at the other end, and they meet in the middle, right? So you have the white hats doing all the work on one end, but I'm sorry, they're not going to eat all that spaghetti. We need to eat some of it ourselves. So I believe that we need to get to work, and we'll meet them in the middle. And I'm not going to take any excuses anymore. There's other countries that are working so hard right now, or people working so hard to take their countries back. And not everybody, but many Americans are still apathetic and they're complacent. But that's been the condition that we've had. It's bread and circus. I liken it to this. I put something on my Telegram platform today. I said, there's people in other nations that are fighting daily to get one meal and a glass of water, and they don't have a roof over their head, right? But we're online whining about the increase in gas prices or our water bill, right? What are we using though? We're using electricity. We're using our cell phone when we have a roof over our head. And that's the worst of it. I'm not saying those aren't real world situations. Those are horrible. Of course, we don't want to have not a way to pay our water bill. That's horrible, right? And yes, there's homeless people all over the place in the United States, but we have to really realize that our low may be somebody else's middle, and they would be happy with what we don't have, the way we talk. So I think we need to wake up and understand it could be a lot worse. And unfortunately, I think you're going to see a lot worse before people get activated. So the goal of my team is to be proactive, and let's try to get activated before it gets much worse. Let's not wait until we're in so much extraordinary pain and fear till we take action. Let's go now. And that's what we're putting together. And that's about all I can hint at. But I can just tell you what we have put together. I'm more proud of than the first Truth Tours combined.
Wow.
Because it's going to make such an incredible difference. Everybody can do this, and it's going to be a worldwide effort within communities, and this works. And I know it works, and that's what we're going to show, tangible results.
So I have a quick,
news.
okay, I have a quick question on that. I was talking to someone because I've been privy to a little bit of the information, and it is someone that's not in the area where the tour is going. Let's say they're in a different part of the country. Are they going to be able to watch and observe and act and utilize those tools from a distance, or do they need to be physically at this?
Did I say there was a tour, or is that something you're saying?
You said there was an app, which I think anybody could access, right?
Is there an app?
Not yet.
I don't know.
Might happen. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I will say for now,
okay,
there will be boots on the ground.
Okay.
And everybody in every community worldwide will be able to access this information.
Okay, then that answers both our questions. And
yeah, well, I gotta say, I think it was your question, but what's happening in the world right now is pretty spectacular with this FTX debacle, and we're going to take a deep dive into that in another show. That's not what we're here for tonight, but just the very premise that they tax the shit out of the American people. They take those taxes to the tune of, I think it's 91 million or billion rather, now that they've sent to Ukraine, which is bigger than Russia's entire military budget for a year. And that's not enough. But what really happens to the money? Well, it just kind of like a Bill Gates charity. It just makes its rounds in the circle, and it comes right back to the Democrat coffers. And this has been exposed, but what's astonishing to me is the impact is minimal. I mean, if this happened, 50 years ago, even 20 years ago, 50 years ago, certainly 100 years ago, there would be massive outrage. There would be protests. There would be people in the street. But we're digesting so much information, and we're getting the Chinese water torture of corruption every day, to where it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. I mean, and it breeds apathy. I don't think, the human spirit is not apathetic by nature.
We're conditioned for apathy. Nobody knows this more than Brad. I've heard you speak of the lack of motivation before and our human condition. So, I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
I do indeed. And there's an old saying that the Americans are fat and complacent and lazy, and we get made fun of in Europe and other countries by the way we look and loud and outspoken. Everybody's got guns and wraps them in bacon. That's what we eat every morning. But there's an old saying that the American people won't do anything until they feel the pinch. And then they become the patriots that are going to take this country back. But we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Right.
And what you said, Lewis, I've had the great honor and privilege of traveling around the world and seeing how the other half lives in poor countries. and more than half the people of the world live on $2 a day, feeding their whole family in some cases. So you're right. We have so much abundance in this country, and maybe that's why it's just so easy to watch the football game on Sunday and blow off responsibilities.
Yeah.
But if there were a crisis in this country, how many people would really be prepared? And some of those crises can be manufactured, flipping on the 5G network, an EMP attack that drops out the grid, to localized disasters. You and I, Lewis, we're both in California. We've been taught from an early age that you got to be ready for earthquakes out here.
Right. Yep.
But the rest of the Americans, they got to realize this could come real quick. And I was out here for the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989 here in Santa Cruz. And I'll tell you how quick every grocery shelf was empty by the evening. And it was a late afternoon earthquake. So it can happen so quick. And that's why I think what you're envisioning for this next phase is so important, because that will help people get prepared and think about emergencies and what we need to do. And what we really need to do is also stand together in unity and find our community and find our group, people that we can all work together. There's a great story of a guy who was doing and just talking to his neighbors and saying, well, what could you do or provide? And he went to this little lady and she's like, I've got nothing and I can't provide anything and I'm just going to be a burden on the group. And he said, well, let's take a little inventory. Let's see what you got. Turns out she learned how to do canning. She knows how to preserve and store food. That turned out to be one of the most crucial aspects in this scenario if they had to rely on each other. So everybody has a way to contribute. And that's really the spirit of what America was founded on, is this pool your resources together. It was with the first wagon trains that went across the country. Everybody was reliant on their group to survive and meet their objective. And I think Americans, we're going to come back to that phase. And so this could be very, very valuable information that is imparted in this next rendition of the Truth Tour.
It's amazing. We wouldn't have the country that we have if it wasn't for that rugged individualism. And to think that people, just on the notion of freedom and starting a new life and the unknown and adventure and whatnot, that they would take such risks. I mean, people aren't willing to take hardly any risks by comparison now. But this country was founded by people that, hell, half of them didn't make it, more than half of them. And they knew that going in, but they did it. And tremendous sacrifice with no real promise as to the outcome. And that, I think, that underlying message, that's the truth about America. That's what we, that's the spirit in this land. And I think it's important to at least know about it. And certainly, if you can, embrace it.
Yeah. I mean, my grandfather came over here at age 12 from Italy and, started working at in Stampede Pass and on the railroads. And it's just like, I think about any trials and tribulations I have, and it's like, he came here at 12, man. It's like, it just, and then I visit his gravesite and I have the same name. I'm like, gosh, I got to make my family proud. I got to do something that when I look at that, like my dad would look at. And I think that's a big motivator, is why I'm, locking arms with you guys. And we're doing that. Even though this is an online community, we're here to help each other and hopefully inspire the people that watch us. So it's just an honor to be here with you guys and be thinking about these things and talking about it and then doing them. So it's great to be here. So.
Yeah, my grandfather came over at roughly the same age from exactly the same place at about the same time. Could have been the same boat. We don't know for sure.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, we just found this out not too long ago. But and he ended up in the New York area, but he's still celebrated there to this day, and he's been dead longer than I've been alive. So we can make an impact. You gotta stay true to your heart, to your values, to your creator. That's where civilization came from.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I am under the belief system that what we've been waiting for is the top-down approach. We've been waiting for the upper level white hats in military to start cutting everything down until they get to we the people, and then they'll take care of us, right?
Yeah.
What if it's the bottom up approach that's really most necessary?
Great point.
Because the reality is, if we don't do the work, I've said this many times, we'll be right back where we were in 30 years, right?
Yeah.
33 to be exact, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So if anything is going to survive, it needs to have what? A foundation, right? So what we'll be working on is helping people build a foundation, and we're really going to be restructuring what we know as government. So if anybody knows my platform, it's Screw Big Gov. Gov doesn't stand for government, it stands for governed. Screw big governed. We do not want to be governed anymore. And we are governed by corporations. We're governed by the medical establishment. We're governed by agricultural. We're governed by the big education, and we're governed by political figures. We're done. We will not accept that anymore. It's time to wash that away and go back to, when I say original documents, I'm pre-Constitution documents, because even the Constitution's been manipulated if we really look into this. So the goal is, and I believe the way we're constructing something, I believe this can go viral super quick, right? And in 2 months, not 2 months from now, but 2 months from when we launch this, 2 to 3 months, I believe the infrastructure will be set where the cabal will say, we're not sure what we can do. Because let me tell you what they can't handle. They can't handle we the people being aware, and they certainly can't handle when we know what to do to get to them. And this is not a me thing, but I've faced this type of adversity firsthand. And I can tell you, the cabal and these demons and spellcasters back down when they're confronted in a heavy way.
Well, the big
And we got this. We just need a little guidance. So my team is putting together, and we're going to be very open to any input. As soon as we release the information, the next thing I do immediately is I said, anybody can help us be better and be better teachers of this, please come talk to me and we'll figure it out, because this is muy importante, since we're speaking English and Spanish now in this country. Ay, Dios mío. So anyways, the reality is this is very, very important, but we got this, but we at the same time have to recognize that there's something else going on, which is very positive. So you talked about FTX, correct?
Yeah.
There's something that you can link to FTX that just happened. You have Congress coming out. I just watched the 9-minute video, and literally it was, by the way, in mainstream media, a live conference saying President, I can't even say it, Biden. I just threw up in my mouth. So faux Biden and Hunter, human trafficking,
Yep,
drugs, money laundering. So if anybody doesn't want to tell me something's happening, please explain how within a week FTX and that hits the mainstream media.
exactly.
Bingo.
Exactly.
So let's go back to Trump really quick. And I don't mean to take up your time, but I'm just trying to get in
No,
before I have to leave it.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk when you gallivant off to whatever you're
I will gallivant too.
If I could add a point before I lose it, though, that what could in fact be considered a psyop, but the general message is, someone has to step in and save us, kind of a thing, before civil war breaks out. So that's acknowledging this idea that we have this. The problem is that we're not unified. The problem is that it's left against right, this paradigm, which could change in a heartbeat. I mean, really, the people on the left, they'll join the winning team, whoever it is. We know that, sadly. But it's a little bit of a sidebar. But the idea is that we need to kind of create that unity, and adversity has a way of doing that. So if conditions become more adverse, I think unity is more probable if it does happen. But we need to find a way to do this together and to do this without a civil war, because we're not fighting each other. We need to identify the enemy.
Well, we're not fighting each other, and that's brilliant that you said that. But what we really have to understand is there is no red and blue.
Right.
And so I don't want to upset people, but so people are very clear. President Trump is running a psyop.
Yeah.
And that psyop is directed by the art of war. So now what I'm doing is I'm rereading this book, and I'm going in point by point, and I go, well, there I could see where they're doing that. Oh, well, that's what they're doing there. Oh my, can you believe that one? Right? Because I'm sorry, but that speech and that announcement of the 2024 election, he's never looked weaker on stage than at that moment.
100%.
And if people think that was an accident or you're just having a bad day, they're nuts. I was listening and watching his breath, the way he was breathing, his tonality. He didn't use levels in his speech. I don't remember him mention anything about election fraud, and I haven't heard him speak in the last 2 years without announcing election fraud. So that is the art of war. They need to look as weak as they possibly can when they're strongest. So this is on purpose. The other thing it does, which is brilliant, now if the military or the court system start taking action, which is laid out through FTX and in Congress already, immediately within 2 days of his speech, now he is absolved, and the news media can't say this is Trump's behind this. It's brilliant. He has one other thing going for him in this. A major presidential candidate generally gets live coverage on every news media every time they speak. Excuse me. Can you imagine the disclosures that might be coming out from him when he knows he's live on CNN?
Yep.
It's brilliant. So I'm not concerned about his 2024 announcement. I actually think it could be a positive thing, but it's time for us to take our eyes off of President Trump and get to work on our own, because they're clearly doing work, but we need to ante up and kick in. And I think we can do that if people have the right tools and the right guidance.
And how many Jeb Bush speeches do you think he had to watch to prepare for that address? I wonder.
It was low energy. It was amazing.
It's real low energy.
And it was intentional, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would have to agree.
What if it wasn't even President Trump?
Yeah, if ever.
Oh, that was just brought up tonight with Brad Pop, or the Bruce Poppy and Robert.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really?
Point.
Oh yeah,
There
we
you go.
just gotta talk with them about it. Yeah.
Yep. Hey, Lewis, real quick, can you see the messages that Brad's sending up there in the chat?
For a split second, I didn't click on them. You want me to click on them?
Because it's probably really good information for you. That's for you.
All right.
Just want to make sure you got it. Brad, can we hear you?
Yeah, you can.
There
yeah,
you
Lewis, I'm a good person for putting the right people together. I build teams for a big event I do in San Francisco once a year called the How Weird Street Fair, and also with the various publishing projects I work on. So I just sent you someone who can solve a problem for you in the meeting chat right here in Zoom.
Got it. I've already screenshotted it. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
See, that's why we're here.
To serve. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is give people resources, give people information, give them the ability to get themselves in the best position that they can be in for the next couple of years. Because I do think it's still going to be a rough ride. This globalist cabal, even though we got their backs on the ropes and investigations are going to begin, they're going to fight to the death. I'm afraid they're just like the snake, you can't cut off its tail, got to cut off its head.
Yep.
And so they're going to fight back. They're going to throw everything they got at us, plus the kitchen sink. And those that are prepared will be the best position to weather the storm. And they don't like all this light being shine on them. It's a cockroach when you flip on the light. What do? They scurry away. And so they're being exposed at a level that they're not used to at all. And they're meeting resistance at a level they've never had before. Mm-hmm. So this shows me that we are witnessing the Great Awakening, that people really are seizing this opportunity to re-educate themselves, because look, everything we've been taught we know about this world and taught in school and thought about government and what the media has become, everything is opposite. Everything is invert. The globalists truly have hijacked all the best systems in the world and business and the media. And hey, if you want to get their point of view and hear what the globalists want you to think, then go ahead and watch that nightly news. But it's all so filtered at this point. And you said 30 years ago, this wouldn't stand all this investigation and Biden, Beijing Joe, so many things. I mean, this guy is so corrupted. This would never stand 30 years ago. But then again, we had real journalists 30 years ago who would really break this story. Now they're all bought and paid for, captured operation. Media sucks. And that's why alternative media is really taken off. And this message resonates with people because it is the truth.
Well, shit, they've got gain of function research going on in Boston right now while people are still sifting through the rubble of their lives from COVID. This is still being, and we're allowing this to happen. We're paying for it, for Christ's sake. You know, how is that happening? And if we unite as a people and we're informed, I think we could put a stop to that. But until then, I think we're just
we can. And here's where I say, so we're not responsible for what the cabal has done to us. And they've been doing it. It's been 1,000 or more years, right? So we're not responsible for it, but until we realize that we're accountable for turning a blind eye to it, we're not going to move forward.
Right.
So we have to actually take responsibility for being accountable. Yeah. And until we say, you know what, I'm accountable because I've taken a blind eye. I was watching my sports on the weekend when something didn't feel right, and that's what I should have been paying attention to, right? When we do that, we got this, right? The reality, though, is I would say, Brad, it may be worse because I think we have cut the head off the snake. And that's why we're in the situation we're in, because I'm going to liken it to the Italian mafia. When the mafia was taken down through the RICO acts and everything else in New York, they cut the head off the snake first. They cut the second, third level off. And then the second and the third level told on the first level, right? And they cut them off. What they probably didn't prepare very well for is that vacuum that was created when leadership was gone. And then it was virtual anarchy when they tried to fill that vacuum and everybody was trying to take their leader position. It's because you know what they didn't have anymore? They didn't have their organizational techniques. And when you lack the organization and you're just trying to fire for the top, get that position, that's where I think we're at the middle management level. And the reason why it's so scary and freaking everybody out is because you have a lot of this cabal middle management making decisions, because like you say, they're cockroaches scattering all over the place. You know where else we saw this before? We saw this in Colombia. We thought when we would take down the Colombia cartel that we're going to be in good shape. But who filled that vacuum? And they were a hell of a lot worse than Colombia. The Mexican cartel.
Best assessment I've heard. I mean, they're getting so sloppy with something like this FTX debacle. There's a dozen of them I could point out.
They don't have the guidance that they had before, which I would say is more dangerous than if they did.
They haven't dealt with the Hunter Biden situation. They're just letting it lay out there. It's insane. They wouldn't do. You're right. They would not do that if they had the power they once had.
Shows they're a little desperate. Got the enemy on the ropes, but
exactly
just like any cornered animal, though,
it's the worst.
their most dangerous point too. They're
Exactly
gonna
right.
start throwing those roundhouses like crazy.
That's right. And I hear, and I'll leave you guys with this, but I have a few more minutes. But here's the deal, and I think about this a lot. So what I pride myself on is I'm always in touch in my chat, trying to read my chat as much as I can and interact with we the people, because it's as soon as I think I'm a big shot, I'm an asshole. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the reality is everybody here is just we the people. That's I'm just blessed. You're blessed. We have platforms. Okay, that's done. We're over with that. Now let's get to work. So
Right.
I'm constantly trying to figure out what the pulse of worldwide, actually, because I'm blessed enough to have a platform like that. But what's pulse? What's going on with we the people? And I can absolutely tell you without a shadow of a doubt that it's just guidance that everybody's looking for. I mean, in general, and they just want the truth. They want somebody just to freaking tell them. They don't want that opium anymore, guys.
No, they don't.
They don't want that, and they definitely don't need the fear porn.
No.
It's like, just tell us what's going on, and we'll move forward, and we will get the job done. And I'm saying we the people, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see, because I think we're at a place right now in this movement, and some truthers get mad. Don't call it a movement. Well, fuck you. I don't give a damn. I'm just gonna. It doesn't matter. It's the movement. You know what I mean? So whatever. Okay. Sorry, I didn't say 3D to 5D. So whatever. So the point is we are at a point right now in this movement where people are craving authenticity.
Yeah.
Just be authentic. Even if you're an asshole, I can deal with you. Just be authentic, right? And I love that. I think that's very, very powerful, because when you know that people aren't hiding something from you, you can work with them and get something done. And we are at a beautiful, beautiful place in this world right now where we can take the clay that we call planet Earth and mold it into what we need it to be as we the people.
Wow.
And it is an extraordinarily beautiful place to be in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's a really good, a lot of great points right there.
Yeah, sure as shit isn't boring.
Yeah. Very
What a
interesting
time to be alive.
That's for sure.
It really is.
Jinx.
And to have an effect at that clay and mold it in a positive way that we'll have something to pass on to our children and grandchildren. That's the legacy of being an American. We are carrying the torch of a very solid position. The founding of this country and the principles it was built upon is very much worth preserving. And that's part of it too, is educating people just how strong we have government in this country that was wrested away from the royalty and the globalists of their time. I mean, this has been a constant struggle, and now we're finally showing the light of who these cockroaches are and taking our country back.
Do you think when the founding fathers were meeting in 1776 and 1777 that they were arguing over what's in it for me?
Right.
No, they were building for the future that they knew they would never see. Right? So how dare we say, I need this to be over because I want to get mine?
No, that's not what it's about.
That's not what it's about at all. We have to build for what we probably won't see.
Yeah.
But we'll go down in the annals of history of making a massive difference. And I'm cool with that.
Yep.
Absolutely. God willing.
Wow. Thank you for joining us, Lewis, for throwing your hat in the ring, your ideas out to us and inspiring us. It's always great. I mean, it's cool to capture this moment in time when people look back. I mean, like I've talked about, it would have been great to know what was going on in Atlantis 5,000 years ago and have some videos to reference. And so
Yeah.
hopefully that's what these are, you know, and we
You
don't have
got your guy right here to tell you all about Atlantis.
exactly as we lead into that segue.
Exactly.
Well, and thanks for being inspirational and invigorating, because people need that. They're not just getting it from words. I mean, you know, you're presenting a direction, you know, at a time when I think people are really looking for a direction, and I think that's going to lead to a lot of unity, and that's going to lead to a lot of power, and I think that's going to lead to a lot of change, and that's going to lead to a lot of prosperity.
Good power.
Yeah.
It's all going to come around, and if I could just leave people with this, clearly already, but right now there's going to be a lot of disclosures coming out, and there's going to be a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And let's put the I told you souls in a can, in a bottle for another day. And let's open up our arms and say, hey, I'm here for you when you need me. Let me catch you up. I think that's the best possible thing we can do for people, because the reality, and Brad, you and I've kind of had this conversation a long time ago. I don't know if you remember, but on a radio station, but we really aren't fighting for the patriots, guys. We're fighting for everybody that's asleep right now.
Yeah.
That's really what this battle is about. So we're fighting for the people that hate us and call us names.
Yeah.
We're fighting for their free speech too,
Yeah,
because we realize how important it is. Even if we don't agree with them, we fight for their right to have free speech. And they will eventually wake up. And you're right, Lewis, we can't have a big ego or any name calling. That's not going to help. Help them understand this. Be a friend, be a brother, be a son, be a daughter, or even teaching our children in school level. And we were talking in the pre-show about how important it is to take a role in local government, because we can affect change still locally.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably the only reason why I still bother to vote, because I know at least that ballot is probably going to the right place.
you have a chance at least.
Little chance.
Right.
Unless
Then
you're
we can
in
affect
Washington
change on
State.
Right.
hopefully a state level, and then we'll take care of the feds at the end there. But it is possible to do it from the ground up, and any great movement, we're going to call it that, but it always starts from the ground up. It's always grassroots. Even the disclosure and understanding ancient civilization on this planet is always from the ground up. It's the new finding that rewrites that part of history. It's the whole notion of we're not alone in this universe, and that there could be other entities that have a keen interest on what happens here on Earth.
Mhm.
But from my understanding, they want to see us do it. It is up to us. It's our human species. We are the dominant consciousness on the surface of this planet, and it's really our karma and our direction that this world's going to go. And for the longest time, it's been hijacked, and it's now time to take back our power.
Mhm.
So knowledge is always power, and understanding what we're up against and what we can do about it is the absolute key to this great awakening on an individual level.
Yep. And then if I could just say this, folks, anybody watching that gets triggered and very, very upset by the crazy things the cabal do to us little people, just remember 90% of your friends would stomp on a cockroach or kill a spider if it enters their house. They look at us like spiders, ants, and cockroaches. And until you realize their perspective, this is why they have no moral issue with doing damage to us, because they look at us like we are an absolute cockroach in their mind. So when you're trying to spend time trying to figure out how they could possibly do this, just go away from that and know that you are nothing to them. You are less than the less of the less to them. And the reason why I say that, because if you understand the mind of the enemy, they're a lot easier to combat them, and you don't get too stressed out emotionally. You just kind of say, okay, here's the way we have to handle this.
It's self-defense. We're really just defending ourselves, our rights, and our physical bodies and our families. They are coming at us full board, right? So we've seen what they've already done with this old thing and so much more that they're rolling out. This whole globalist plan. They want to switch us over to a digital currency and so much more to control us. This may be the last time we wrest our freedom from the clutches of this tyranny. They are so close to having their talons fully digged in, so there is no escape. It's always been planned that way.
Right.
But there is an escape, and that's having
Well,
even love and compassion. But we got to know what we're up against. But they're, boy, the evil, the most demonic creatures that have ever existed, and they've been here for a long time. And now finally, we're giving them this resistance, and I think we're going to get them out of here. And it's going to be a glorious day for humanity when we come out of this on the other side. This is the Great Awakening. This is the golden age. And this is the timeline one. This is what is meant to happen on planet Earth. And to have that role that we play with this ball of clay, as you described, Lewis, and just help form it in the way it's going to help future generations and the preservation of this country. It's the greatest thing you can do right now. And that is your personal karma, but it's also the group karma of this nation and the planet Earth that we live on. So really doing God's work here by helping people to understand this. And I think we all know that deep in our heart that we're doing the right thing. And this is it. This is the zeitgeist of the age. I mean, we didn't pick this time right now, but the time is now. So we're just dealing with what we're up against. And we can see how, as you said, Lewis, we're going to start to be exposed with some really dark secrets that have been held. And it's going to be a tough wake up for some people that bought into this old system. And the best thing we can do is just be their friend and put a hand on their shoulder, no matter if they call us names and took us apart in social media. Doesn't matter now. All that matters is going forward and healing this planet and getting through what's coming up.
Well,
well said. Thank you,
keep
Brad.
at us with this whole narrative. It's just narrative after narrative, but the whole idea that now we have a significant amount of the population arguing for more taxes and higher taxes, even though we see what they do with the tax revenue, which is largely send it through Ukraine at this point, back to the Democrats. But
FTX.
Oh yeah, talk about an what is that? The Ouroboros? It's like I'm gonna
Ouroboros, yeah.
I'm gonna talk to Dylan about making a graphic because that's pretty cool. But yeah, this idea that you just give the microphone to the loudest guy with the worst message, and people will work this out for you. This you have to have so little faith in yourself that you assume as much of other human beings. And so little trust in yourself that you have to have so little trust in other human beings. And so we have this crisis of character, and they've been working on that for a while, where people don't even know their identity. They don't even know their gender. Certainly, they don't have enough self-knowledge to know that they can have confidence in themselves, and that freedom is valuable. Freedom is not valuable to someone that's afraid of it, because they're afraid they might, if they're not regulated, they might do something wrong with it. It's so much easier to follow orders. And we've got that competing narrative, but that's a really easy narrative to beat, because all you got to do is feel freedom. Feel it.
On that note, I got to go drink my soy, paint my nails, and call myself they.
Oh my God.
Excellent. Well, tell your boyfriend we said hello.
I will. Well, my they friend.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Thanks for Lewis.
Lewis.
Hey, you
Thank you. Take care.
Toodaloo.
See you, Brad. Bye-bye.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Just the three of us. We can make it if we try.
Yeah. I got to ask the question I always ask. What the hell's going on in Antarctica, Brad?
Yeah, that was coming up on the 4-year anniversary of going down there just before COVID. And what is going on there? I've made it my life's purpose to find out the last 5 years, even before I went down there, poring over maps and studying up on this stuff and looking at all these mysteries and asking questions, trying to find out what is going on down there. And I do think it will be part of this disclosure of part of the control mechanism of planet Earth has been, at least a portion of it, based out of Antarctica for quite a long time. Some of these massive ships under the ice, and I've been able to pinpoint one of the three quite conclusively where it's located. Turns out it happens to be in New Schwabenland, the claim of the Nazis. Oh, I do say.
Wow.
And I show it in my presentation called The Hidden Anomalies of Antarctica. And so I would propose that the Germans saw it. And this is part of the reason why they chose that area, as well as having geothermal features. And that's what the Battle of High Jump was all about too, was the Allies that after World War II were trying to stamp out this Fourth Reich in the Americas and Antarctica. And the Americas is also South America. And when I was going down there 4 years ago, looking at all this research, finding massive tracts of land that are owned, that are basically operating as micro nations down there in Chile and Argentina, some as large as some of our small states like Delaware and Connecticut. Oh, they all happen to have German accents and you can't even get anywhere near it, but you get to the guard station and they're all Germanic. And so what's going on in Antarctica, some of my other colleagues who also study this, including Dr. Michael Sala, I was just speaking at a conference with him in Orlando last month. And some of the big news earlier this year was a mass exodus of German-speaking people in the middle of winter going through McMurdo, immediately getting on flights and getting out of there as soon as they could. And they're kind of German commando types too, the military types that couldn't get a direct flight out, like some of these globalists. Then you got stories of Klaus Schwab and the woman from the European Economic Forum, Christine Lagarde, head of European Central Bank. Yeah, she was going down there too. And none other than a place, and Michael Sala tipped me off on this, Rothschild Island. Yes, there is such a place.
Wait, is that
and it happens to be right across from the Rockefeller Plateau.
Isn't
and
that
a lot
right
of
by
weird
Klaus
stuff goes on
Schwaben
them.
land? Isn't there
Klaus Schwaben. It could be now. Yeah, New Schwabenland is now Klaus Schwabenland. So what Schwab of the Hut is that big monster thing that lives out there.
Yeah.
But what I think we're starting to realize is that this Fourth Reich in the Americas was very much a real phenomenon, that they did leave Germany after World War II with all the loot, including many pallets of gold and stock interest. And they're great industrialists, and they're also really good investors. So while they lost the fighting force of the German army in World War II in 1945, they escaped with all the loot, and some of the higher up, including Hitler himself and Martin Bormann, the money man, they kept popping up all over South America all through the 50s. And then they financed companies and they created this Fourth Reich, which is largely an intelligence army, no longer with that fighting force. But there was a contingent of a secret space program, as we'd call it in this country, but one that they developed as well. And I've met some of the Waffen super soldiers, including Penny Bradley at some of the conferences I speak at, and some others who were in some of the German programs. And they were actually, if history were really to be told truthfully, and maybe someday we can access it with the yellow cube, which is featured here on my book, Beyond Esoteric, and look at all the history of the world, we'd come to find that the Germans, these Fourth Reich Nazis, were the first to land on the moon. Even during the Third Reich, it's believed in the waning years of the war, even the 1930s, they were achieving space travel. And there's a base on the dark side of the moon that's even shaped like a swastika. So they were colonizing the moon and traversing through our solar system in the last couple decades. And that's part of the Fourth Reich. And they have created their own economy by doing this. There are several different space programs, not sure if you guys are aware of it, In our country, we had Solar Warden, which was one of the early patrolling operations of basically the NATO countries led by America, first among equals in NATO, they say. Of course, our aerospace was far and above beyond. Why? Well, we got all those paperclip Nazis like Hermann Oberth and Werner von Braun to come here. Oh yeah, they made spaceships, right? Like Roman candles, just blast off, land on the moon and come back. What about anti-gravity? What about 0 point? What about free energy, that propulsion of these craft? That's where the conversation should lead. And that's what the Fourth Reich has been developing over the last few decades. And they're still a formidable force, but they are the globalists of today. That's why we see the Nazis fighting in Ukraine. Yeah, they have developed their mercenary standing army again, but they've created all this wealth and they basically control it. And so we are up against a formidable foe when we go up against this Fourth Reich, but they are, again, few in numbers and we are the many. Just like in World War II, they believed that they could win World War II with a much smaller army because they would scale everything up and they had the ability to really make the most out of the weapons and the training. And they were one of the most formidable armies in the world, taking a page right out of ancient Sparta and how they motivated soldiers and got them to fight to the death. They were amazing. And even till the waning days of World War II, the Allies were very afraid of the wonder weapons, these secret high technology weapons. 6 months later, if the war would have dragged on, it could have been a totally different outcome. It could have been nukes over New York. It could have been wiping out the Allies with death rays or other very exotic tools of war. And it could have been a very different outcome if they could have postponed it even a half a year, is my understanding. So in a way, we dodged a bullet, but that also gave the impetus for the remaining intelligence structure. And keep in mind, the fighting forces of Germany is what surrendered. The Third Reich never surrendered. That was the political group. That was the real nuts and bolts of it. It's like saying, oh yeah, we conquered America, but the Republicans and Democrats never surrendered. Well, they went underground with all the loot to rebuild this Fourth Reich, which now we're seeing the outward appearance of how they've manifested and trying to do. Hey, look, the Davos group. Yeah, it's in Switzerland, but it's in the German-speaking part of Switzerland. Klaus Schwabenland. Yeah, he's Mr. Nazi himself. One of the worst kinds that just want, as Lewis said, they have no regard for us. We're just cockroaches to them. They do want to depopulate this planet. So this is self-defense, is understanding our enemy. And I'm so glad he showed us the Art of War by Sun Tzu, because we got to think like that. We got to know who our enemy is against us. And they've been very elusive to keep themselves hidden and in the shadows.
And they pay the media. They pay the media. So
they are bought and paid for, man. They own the media.
Yeah.
They own the media.
Well,
you don't read your teleprompter, you're out.
Yeah.
You know, if you look on the plate carriers of the Ukraine soldiers, they're
Black Sun.
Yeah, the emblem of the Black Sun. You want to elaborate on that?
Oh yeah, well, that's the occultic symbol of the SS. So they believed in this power source, this Black Sun. And you can even go to the Wewieselberg Castle in Germany, and they have on the floor, I'll show you. Here's Wewieselberg in my book, and here is the Black Sun motif.
Oh,
and this is what you find exactly on their uniform. So, and this is the very occult side of Nazi Germany. So it's called the Schwarz Sun. The Black Sun is a symbol, which is a central image of the Vril Society.
Oh, wow.
Different can be seen on the floor of Wewieselberg Castle's North Tower in the former SS General's Hall. Interestingly, the Black Sun symbol can also be found in many ancient Babylonian and Assyrian places of worship. The Black Sun depicts the Godhead's inner light in the form of a round cross and includes shapes of the Nazi swastika. It is also similarities with the German Knight's Cross. So you can see in there is elements of the swastika itself, and it is of this vril energy, which the German scientists were absolutely obsessed with. They called it techno magic. It was so enthralling to them to tap into this. And this is the basic nature of 0 point and flying craft technology. This is the very basis of it. And they've been working on this for almost 100 years. And I would propose they've achieved those goals and even to some degree mastered it. So they were just a little bit before their time, and it was almost, we would all be speaking German by now if they were able to pull off their master plan. So isn't it interesting how the globalists are trying the same darn thing? They're also looking to depopulate, but this time it's all of us. There's way too many of us.
Yeah, it's the same folks, different game. I mean, look,
multi-generational, but
the Bolshevik Revolution.
Ideology.
I mean, this thing just repeats itself over and over, because the Nazis didn't really win the war, as far as I can tell. The Germans certainly did, but you know, this thing just sort of repeats itself over and over. And we hired most of them. You know, I mean, look at, like you said, look at South America. It's full of all those German enclaves for a reason. You know, and then when they declassed part of the JFK file, sadly it wasn't all of it, but that's another interesting story for another day. But you know, it alluded to this idea that, you know, based on CIA statements, that you know, Adolf Hitler was alive and well in 1955, which kind of goes against the narrative. What do you think?
Well, he was alive, and I went to one of these enclaves in La Falda, Argentina, and it's this big hotel over 100 years old called the Eden Hotel, which was the most trendy place in all of Argentina for the elite to go to. And it's always been a joke in Argentina that they have an identity crisis because they've wiped out most of their indigenous populations in Argentina and Chile. And isn't funny how they keep flip-flopping with these fascist governments too, to give cover for the Fourth Reich, who really run the show. And so the joke is, well, Argentinians, we don't really know who we are. We're mostly Italians who speak Spanish, who wish we were as rich as the Germans. And that's who runs the show over there. It's the German speaking Argentinian. They have all the money and all the resources. And there's a lot of evidence that they have underground bases and where they're still backward engineering technology. And that is the base of operations for most of the Fourth Reich.
Well, speaking of base of operations, I'm a little curious. I mean, there's been a lot of talk of, you know, ancient Khazaria, you know, the Khazarian mafia and so on. That's an interesting topic, but that it in fact was Ukraine. You know, I think that's pretty definitive. So, you know, there are obviously there's a lot of Nazi ties in Ukraine. There's the Black Sun emblem on the uniforms. There's the official ideology, which I recently learned about, which is in fact, you know, a Third Reich kind of a statement. So where's the connection with Ukraine, Khazaria, and the Third Reich, Fourth Reich? Yeah, where are we at? Why, how is this significant to right now? Because $91 billion is a lot of money.
Yeah, and counting.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's the other thing is this Khazarian group, and then they are the ones who control the central banks and the printing presses, and they have an incredible amount of control. And they are, for a long time, have even worked with the Fourth Reich, where the Fourth Reich is more the Rockefeller pharmaceutical angle, which is going horribly awry, as we all know. And so there's a division, as my understanding goes, with the different factions of the Khazarians versus the Rockefeller Fourth Reich. And they didn't really feel like they could pull off the whole depopulation through the jab thing. And now that's crumbling and falling apart. And so there's a lot of division because now the Khazarians are bogged down in Ukraine, which is their old homeland. That's exactly where it was, between the Ural and Caspian Seas and the Black Sea and the whole Caucasus region as we know it today, including a lot of these former Soviet Union countries, biggest one being the Ukraine, which happens to be with nuclear power plants and on the verge of getting nuclear bombs, a very dangerous foe to Russia. So no wonder it's all going down there, and it's become this proxy war with NATO, and now they're trying to provoke all of us into war. And this is what they've wanted all along. This was part of what Albert Pike wrote about over 100 years ago, saying that they're going to foment World War III through these different factions, and they need it to survive. So they're in a desperate situation to ignite World War III under false pretenses any way they can get it, right? They'll take any advantage they can. But I think Putin knows, and he certainly wants to prevent it. And there he is, right above the Black Sun, talking about how World War III would be fermented. If you guys want me to read this passage, I can give a little insight.
Yeah, I want you to read the passage, and then for the viewers, if they were to explain, if you were able to give like a 60-second elevator pitch for the normies just to hear what the heck's going on in Ukraine, if you could read it, just because some people don't really even know. So please go ahead.
Okay, so apart from being a proxy war against the NATO countries and US, what a proxy war means is a middle country. It was Korea was a proxy war between China and the US allies. So was Vietnam. They always want to have a proxy war, not in either one of the big countries, but somewhere on the border between the two where they can provoke whatever kind of change they want in government. And this has been going on for a long, long time. And of course, Russia is very used to this, because the Tsar Nicholas and his whole family was taken out by the Bolsheviks, who are basically the neo-Khazarians of America. I mean, a lot of them have heritage through that lineage that comes from there. And so now it's the showdown. Now it's all going down. You got a new Trotsky, who is this Zelensky guy, and they're both Khazarians, right? And so, and with ties to America. And this is the proxy war that's going on right now. And so this is really the bankers' war. This is where they were able to funnel a lot of ill-gotten gains and money laundering and drug and human trafficking went through Ukraine. I mean, it's all on Hunter's laptop if we want to know some of the depravity that's going on there and some of this corruption and modern deal making. And Papa Daddy Biden was saying that they would fire the prosecutor who was looking into all this. And sure enough, he was gone by the time I got on that airplane, and then we transferred him that $1 billion. So it's just so blatantly corrupt. So
Thank you.
It's hard for me to believe people don't see this, how bad it is.
And what is it with all the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world? They're all German. We got IG Farben, we got Bayer, we got Pfizer. It goes on and on. They all had Nazi roots.
Right.
Trusting these people with healthcare, and they're eugenicists.
Yeah.
Right.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Look at Rockefeller. Their byproduct of petroleum was rolled into pharmaceutical medicines. It's where this whole allopathic medicine fallacy comes from. And I'm talking to Dr. Paul Thomas in a couple days. He just lost his medical license because he was the only one, a pediatrician doctor, to say, hey, maybe we don't have to have this rigorous jab agenda. And you talk up against them and they're going to pop your ass. So yeah, this whole chapter on the bioterrain in Future Esoteric goes into how they hijacked medicine and made us think that we couldn't control it with diet and exercise and get some little sun on your face every day. Turns out to be a real good thing that can get rid of this cancer. Isn't it amazing? The American Cancer Society, they're not the American anti-cancer society. They're only there to control cancer,
Yes.
not prevent it, not cure it. No, no, no. It's a big money racket. It always has been for the 100 or so years since the Rockefellers hijacked it. Now they're pushing the big depopulation plan. They just expect us to go along with it. It's just amazing.
So yeah, read your excerpt from your book. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure. So this will give some good insight into this guy, Albert Pike, who then made predictions for the time we're in right now. So this letter from Albert Pike was originally on display in the British Museum's library and was mysteriously taken down in the 1970s, never seen again. It predicts the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the difficulties caused by the agent tour of the Illuminati, the agent provocateur, that they're the ones fanning the flames in the behind, but we always think it's the other guy, but really they're fanning the flames. They're the ones doing it. And that's what this Fourth Reich was. They were the third intelligence. They were the third factor in the Cold War between the US and the Soviets. They were there fanning the flame of discontent in that one too. They're always playing a role behind the scenes in these geopolitical showdowns that we see. So this letter goes on to say that this Illuminati will be between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. And we see how much Iran has been provoked, and that could still be a powder keg that's ready to blow. So the war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arab world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. This is why they want war so bad. This goes into their old Talmud teachings of Gog and Magog, and they really want to see this come to fruition. It's their self-fulfilling prophecy that we destroy each other. And meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horrors will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from the moment be without compassion or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestations of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the greatest revolutionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. End quote. Albert Pike, a letter that was on display in the British Museum's library until the 1970s. Pretty accurate there, don't you think?
Brett, when was that written? When was that written? Do they have the?
Yeah, it was about 100 years ago. Let me see if I have the exact date on here.
Wow.
I probably have it in the text here. But yeah, it's about a 100-year-old letter. He also predicted World War I and World War II rather accurately. He was a Civil War for the South general. So this is how long ago this guy lived. Actually, it's over 100 years that this letter was written. So
weren't his
this
predictions
is the kind of multi-generational thinking that the globalists have. They don't always have to see it in their lifetime, but they will pass it on. That's why this Nazi ideology lives beyond the generations of Nazi Germany in World War II. It's second, third, and even fourth generation now that are practicing it.
Didn't those Albert Pike predictions read a little bit more like a plan maybe than a prediction?
Right. So this is the game plan they want to roll out. This is
Yeah.
the movie script that they want to see come to fruition, but they're meeting a little resistance from those of us who are waking up, and that Putin is really a good guy. He cleared out the biolabs, one of the first things he did in the Ukraine earlier this year, and they were specifically genetically targeting Slavic people. So you don't think he's got a reason to be in there to take this out, this kind of terror and tyranny. And incidentally, on the Russian flag, the traditional Russian flag shows a knight in white armor riding a white horse with a spear slaying a dragon. So there's other prophecies on the other side too, that this showdown would occur, and it would be the black hats versus the white hats in their proxy state of old Khazaria, happening right here, right now.
Wow.
And the red dragon has something to do with the red shield or the Rothschilds, does it not?
That's what it means in German, is red shield. They were the
And-
money changers. Their
and-
original family name was Bauer.
Right. And didn't a guy named Putin kick the Rothschilds out of Russia permanently?
Yeah, they didn't like that too much.
No.
And they're
So
they're
that's
advocating
a
the
prophecy
BRICS
that looks-
nation. Yeah. And
looks like it's got some legs. Yeah.
they made some enemies there with the globalist bankers, but that's the Khazarian side. That's the Rothschilds.
Well, who's he
And
at
the
war
other-
with right now? Ukraine. What is Ukraine? Khazaria. You know,
Exactly.
who are they? Nazis. And you know
Yeah.
what's really funny? And this is well documented, but not widely circulated. But the documents are there for anyone to read, that we're paying ISIS, which may or may not have been a creation of the Obama administration, but and Kane, but we're paying them a mercenary's wage to fight alongside Nazis in Ukraine against Russia. Now, you know, if you told me that a few years back, I'd say that's a hell of a fiction, but we're watching it happen. Isn't that-
Watching it in real time,
Yeah.
rolling out right before our eyes. Yep. So in some ways, they're getting their prophecy. They're setting it up in such a way that they could provoke World War III, but so far cooler heads have prevailed. Look, they just tried a false flag last week by now it's shown quite clearly that it was Ukraine all along that shot that missile into Poland. How come NATO's not up against Ukraine? They just fired on a NATO country, right?
Yeah.
That's what is it, Article 5, that says any provoked attack against a NATO country is an act of war against all of them. How come they're not mobilizing against Ukraine now? It clearly was a provocation against a NATO country. So it's so hypocritical. Everything is upside down here. Everything's inverted. They're just trying anything they can to stir this up and get the war that they need so bad to try to get out of the trouble they're in.
So someone in Ukraine is filing a serial number off of a missile right now. You know it. You just know it. And before that, they were attacking the nuclear power plant, which is right by the Russian border. There were, I don't know, I think 3 or 4 attacks that were repelled, clearly motivated by Ukraine. They're willing to create that level of a crisis in this
Right.
situation. Who wants to win that badly, that they would destroy the very land they're trying to defend? It's not about
Well, because
defending
this is their last stand, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it truly is. Yep. This is when it goes down. And just like the Q posts say, we'll deal with Israel last, and they'll eventually have to capitulate. And I have a lot of Israeli friends, and I've been to Israel twice. And there's a journalist that I work with now who all she wants to do is expose this evil agenda. And she knows it's really there, and also Switzerland. It's also the Octagon group that runs out of Zug, Switzerland. And I've checked it out before, just outside of Zurich. Go over it on Google Earth, and it's just miles and miles and acres of these palatial estates where all the billionaires live. And I found it interesting. About 10 years ago, I was reading that great magazine Nexus out of Australia, Duncan Rhodes' masterpiece. I mean, it's been the magazine for truthers for decades. And there was an article about how the French Foreign Legion, their most elite troops, kind of like our Navy SEALs or Army Rangers, were preparing for an invasion of Switzerland. And I thought at the time, what's France going to do? Attack and take? Who would ever want the Swiss? They're like the watchmakers and chocolate makers, and we're neutral Switzerland. but that's the globalist headquarters, and it makes perfect sense now. And we might still see that military activity up there in the crown of Europe, which was actually Knights Templar. That is when they founded Switzerland shortly after they were taken down by the King of France and the Pope. They were the first international bankers, were the Knights Templar. They created the ciphers, these seals that a wealthy knight could take on his crusade and turn in the cipher at one of the Templar international banks and get his deposit of gold. They were very innovative in that way. And then they took that up to neutral Switzerland, where you could have a bank account that nobody knows about. They've been doing this for a long time. And whose side were they on in World War II? Well, they had Italy below them and Germany above them. But we're neutral. They're very neutral in laundering all that German loot that they took out at the end of the war.
Yeah, for enough money, who wouldn't be neutral? You know, just getting it from all different sides. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, what are some of the depths? We like to keep these about an hour and 15 minutes, whatever. But can you go into, and then we want to get you to let the folks know, where to find you. Can you go into some of maybe the depths of what really goes on in Switzerland? Because Switzerland's known as, neutral. Can you give us a little insight into what really goes on in Switzerland that people may not know?
Well, sure. Well, the outward appearance is, it's just this alpine country in the middle of Europe, and come on up, and we have trains and trams that go everywhere. We make your chocolate, and we'll make you your great Swiss watch. Well, look, they're integrally tied to the Vatican. So if you ever go to Vatican, it's the Swiss guards, right? And they're Swiss, all right. And it is a Catholic country, so there's that whole Jesuit tie, and that's part of this world control too. So it's the Empire of Three Cities, who we see as the globalist true hub, and that is all these city-states, again, these micronations, which can exist within host nations, quite like a parasite. They're just sucking off the resources, but they're this control and spiritual power. And the other is inside of London. The city of London, 1 square mile, is an independent micronation within London. They control the finances. And in this country, Washington, D.C., its own city-state, doesn't have a senator, doesn't have the same kind of laws, even has their own independence in many ways. And this is what we've seen with J6, why these guys got such a harsh sentence. Well, the laws aren't the same there, because this is the Empire of Three Cities. But now we see that the real control center is up in Switzerland. And they have, in accordance with the Jesuits, which are basically set up as a military organization, the structure that is not to fight with weapons, but an intelligence arm. And isn't it interesting that the Vatican even has their own ambassadors around the world? Vatican City. Yeah, I've been there a couple of times. Small little few hundred people live there. But they wield the authority of an independent nation. And they're integrally tied with Switzerland. So herein lies the problem, and this is what we're up against. And those Europeans and the bankers have controlled America for a long time.
As I understand it, Vatican translates roughly, the etymology of the word is serpent sorcery or serpent magic.
I've heard that too. I should get to the bottom of that. That's a good one to research.
Well, they did build a building that looks an awful lot like a serpent.
Well,
so,
exactly like a serpent.
Exactly like a serpent.
Hey, Brad, why don't you go up and pull a picture up of that?
Yeah, I should. Best I could do right now. I mean, if we had more time, we could have done a screen share. I could have brought up all these images, but
we can get into that in the next one. We're definitely having you back. You're kind of one of our regulars.
Yeah. Let's keep doing it. This is great. I'm so glad I got Lewis on too.
I love that Brad. He doesn't need to share the screen. He just holds up a book
that he wrote.
Turns out I have all this information in there right at my fingertips.
But while you look that up, I want to let the listeners know that the reason we know Brad and the reason we know Lewis, we went to events where they were. And so this is what's cool about going, networking with these guys is go see them in person, find out where they are, see where Brad travels, the conferences he goes to. And you get it. I mean, if there's people or kids out there that want to do stuff like this, just letting you know, that's how we got involved. You got to get active and you get to meet really cool dudes like this.
Yeah, they don't bite, most of them.
Yeah, exactly.
We might drink a beer on the show with you, but
It's that kind of
mostly
show.
for after the conference.
You should see what we do when Mark Atwood's on.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, is that legal?
There it is.
Jeez.
All right, there's the audience hall at the Vatican. Look at those two pictures. Oh, that doesn't look exactly like the head of a snake now, does it?
Yeah.
And then you go in. What the hell's that monstrosity?
Yeah, that's supposed to be the crucifix, and there it is, like Jesus into 1,000 pieces with the snake. His hair looks like a snake's head. Come on.
Yeah, I didn't even know
Demon
Jesus
coming
was a
out of hell.
reptilian.
Yeah.
Jeez.
There you go.
Wow.
That's not by accident, folks.
Doesn't that creep you out?
It's just
So it's hidden in plain sight.
Yeah.
And this was the talk I gave at the first Truth Tour on the first stop. Is all this stuff, this hidden esoteric in plain sight. They just throw it right at us, and most people never get it. But once you see it, boy, you can never forget it.
Well, you have to start talking to people about it. Like, I mean, I'm a little bit later to this awareness in the world than Scott is, but he says he was very dropping hints to me over the years, and one day he's like, hey dude, the world you think you're living in and the world you're living in are two different things. And it was just like, wow, it really hit a nerve. And so from that I started digging, because I like to learn, and I've been an outdoor ed counselor, and so I've wanted to, or guide rather, and talk. And then you start learning, realizing like, wow, if I've been duped, I need to reach out. Now, granted, the audience was a little more challenging when I first started. They start thinking you're crazy, but it's like our goal, our whole intention, yours as well, is to educate people to get away from all the lies that we've been told for at least decades, but really it's centuries. So
the truth is crazy. It sounds really crazy.
Yeah,
What
it does.
they've done is
We admit
absolutely
it.
Crazy.
It does sound crazy, but it's true. And here's the thing: you can either take the red pill now or the red suppository later.
Yeah, good point. And I don't even think it sounds crazy. Actually, it's perfectly logical.
Yeah.
You give people enough power and resources, and they're going to become assholes with it. And that's what the one flaw of capitalism is: they can never have enough, and they always want more. And power is the ultimate aphrodisiac, as Henry Kissinger said. So they just keep coming at us, and this is the natural result of this kind of greed. And they've done studies of psychopaths who are naturally attracted to this kind of power. So 1 in 10 trader or upper management Wall Street guys is a psychopath or a sociopath, which is even more dangerous. And the difference is a sociopath, yeah, he still has no compassion either, but a sociopath is hyper concerned about his image, and they want you to think that, oh, they're such a good guy, like Bill Gates, better on TV. They like tricking you to make you think they're a good guy, but man, they are as vicious as any psychopath.
And that's 10%. And they say, the elite's the 1%. So that's a lot of people. That's if we look at just that, that's 800 million people that are sick and have been running the world, if we broke it down that way.
Yeah, and then they're all attracted to power, and then they also get into politics, and if they're easily blackmailable, say they got some kinky preferences, all the better. Once they got you blackmailed, then you are in their pocket. And some of those guys are like, hey, score, give me the power and the little kids. I'm all good with that. Yeah. So this is the kind of depravity and sickness that we're dealing with, how they've gotten their people into power like this.
But just as a warning, I mean, if you think you're into seeking power over others to that degree, you're gonna end up in a ridiculous looking leather Star Trek outfit. I mean, it happens every time. Look at Klaus Schwab. You've seen the shots, and that's not his weirdest outfit, mind you. Brad, I'll send you a JPEG.
Yeah, that is
Dr. Evil. Yeah.
it's
Funny how art imitates life, isn't it?
Oh my God.
I think they relish in that too, playing that evil.
Well, that's the thing. And if they do some nefarious thing, right, and they're caught in this, well, it's not just them that's threatened. They can put, God knows what on someone's computer. They can threaten their family, their wife, their kids, their loved ones. And so then you're stuck, with some of the stuff that, Kanye or Ye has been talking about. You're stuck in this thing where if you don't do what they tell you to do, they don't go after just you, they go after your family. And then you're stuck like, wait, so if I do that, then they're going to go, take care of the innocent people around me. So that's what we're dealing with, just so people can understand the depth of, the blackmail. So, once you understand that, then you can start seeing maybe some of the decision making and thought process that they go through.
And they own the biolabs.
Right.
That's terrifying.
Everything of importance. Just follow the money. If you can't make sense of a story, it's this BlackRock and Vanguard groups that controlling interests and all the biggest corporations, and they have to answer to no one, and you don't know who their investors are. So this is how the globalists tied it all up. They got everything. They won in that regard. Congratulations, guys, but you didn't break the human spirit. You're not going to break us, and we're going to fight back. And the sword is mightier, or the pen is mightier than the sword in this case. That they might have the guns and the police and some of the armies, but we have the truth on our side, and we're going to expose them in the nonviolent way of showing everybody else what they're up to, so they can be in a self-defensive posture, because we're being assaulted right now. And you absolutely have to have your wits about you during this time, because it's not over yet. And unfortunately, I think they're still going to throw out some pretty dirty tricks.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Can you let the listeners know where they could find you, and we'll tie this up in a nice little bow?
Well, you can find me in my book called Beyond Esoteric. This is where I expose these globalists. Actually, there's 3 books in the series. You can go to cccpublishing.com. That's my publishing website. We also do books by Michael Jaco and Leo Lion-Zagami and Lan Milo Duquette, other great thinkers in the esoteric field and the hidden governments. So I've been very involved in a lot of these groups, speaking at conferences and meeting these people and coming to understand what this is all about. And so it's in my service to all that I give you these books, and they're not very expensive, and it's been my life work for several decades. So makes a great Christmas present or stocking stuffer as the season's coming on. Just how about a red pill of your family? And if you go to cccpublishing.com, I'll sign copies for people, including personalized to loved ones, if they come in the next couple weeks before Christmas. And then if you want to find out more about me and other projects I'm involved in my conference schedule for 2023, and I'm already up to close to a dozen already booked, go to bradolsen.com, and there's a link that conferences I'll be appearing at starting in February at Conscious Life Expo down in LA. So maybe even a true tour appearance if it were to manifest in that way. I'd love to get back on that again.
Well,
great.
We'll see. Any last words to end this interview, on a positive, which you always do, but just on a positive note for the listeners? Please go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm a positive guy, and so are you guys. And we realize that this is an extraordinary period of time right now. And I get people coming up to me or being in touch and saying, I'm just one person. I can't do it. I'm depressed. This is all just so overbearing. I just want to check out. And in a way, it's understandable. A lot of people just can't handle this anymore, and they're in debt and feeling like the weight of the world is coming down on them. But all I got to say is it's just the most amazing time to be alive. You don't want to check out early. This is the greatest show in the universe right now. And everybody has a little skin in this game. Just by being alive, just by holding that space in your consciousness of what's going on is actually making a difference. Because in the end, this is a numbers game, and we're the ground crew on team humanity here, and we all just need to hold that space because we have the numbers, and with our numbers, we will succeed. So just hang in there, everybody, and be prepared. Get ready for what might be coming, and support alternative media and subscribe to your guys' channel and follow along with this stuff and check out my books, and we're all in this together. Let's get through this moment. These next couple of years are going to be really intense. We're going to see some massively dark information coming down the pike, but we just got to be strong and deal with it, and decapitate the snake. I still think it needs to have a head cut off moment. I'm not advocating violence, but metaphorically speaking, the old construct, all this stuff's got to come down. We got to tear it all down before we can build it up good again. And that's, again, where just holding the space and being conscious of what needs to get done is really important right now. And so everybody hang in there and be a part of the solution, not part of the problem, as we've heard.
Awesome.
Well said, Brad. And thank you so much for joining us. We're looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, you bet, guys. That was a great talk tonight.
Always
And,
a pleasure. Yeah.
Till the next one, till the next tour, till the next conference, till the next interview. See you guys again.
Everybody check out Brad Olsen. He's got some amazing work.
We'll be in touch. Thanks, Brad.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
You too.